It's a really strange phenomenon when you watch someone line up for a marathon.
Oh, yeah.
Like the starting gun goes off, and they just immediately drop into this full-blown Olympic-level sprint.
Right. Which is just wild to watch.
It is. You see them tear down the street for the first 400 meters, and you can practically see the lactic acid building up almost instantly.
Yeah. And you know with absolute certainty that they are going to hit a wall.
Exactly. They're going to completely collapse.
Because, I mean, biomechanically, a human being just cannot maintain a sprint over 26 miles. The body isn't designed for it at all.
Right. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of the event they are actually participating in.
Totally. The fast twitch muscle fibers burn out, the oxygen debt gets way too high, and the whole system just shuts down.
And honestly, that biological reality perfectly captures the core of our deep dive today.
It really does.
We're focusing on this highly detailed script by Dr. Arup Giri. It's titled How to Balance Coursework, Research, and Personal Life. And, whether you are walking to the lab right now, or sitting at a desk drowning in papers, or you're just insanely curious about high-level time management, this deep dive is crafted specifically for you.
Yeah, because so many people enter graduate programs or these intense, multi-year professional environments, treating them exactly like a sprint.
Yes, and a master's degree or a Ph.D. or a major career pivot, that is a multi-year marathon. The moment you try to sprint it, you hit that exact wall we were just talking about.
Right, the burnout wall.
Exactly. So today, our mission is to deconstruct the crushing pressures of these high-achieving environments. We are going to extract actionable, tactical strategies to survive this massive juggling act without burning out.
But, before we even touch on the time management tactics, we have to map out the specific terrain you're running on.
Right, you have to know the course.
Exactly. Dr. Giri identifies this structural flaw in these environments, and he calls it the graduate school paradox.
The graduate school paradox. Okay, unpack that a little bit.
So it's basically this constant, exhausting clash between two completely different types of cognitive work. On one side, you have your highly structured commitments.
Like classes and stuff.
Right. Classes, your teaching assistant duties, grading papers. These things have rigid, non-negotiable deadlines.
Yeah, I mean, if you're scheduled to teach a lab on Wednesday morning, you can't exactly just skip it.
No, you can't. The accountability is immediate, and the consequence of failure is highly public.
So the structured work is basically screaming for your attention all the time.
Exactly. But then, on the other side of this paradox, you have your actual thesis research. And that is entirely unstructured.
It's completely open-ended. I think the source material actually defines this as an exploration of the unknown, which sounds kind of intimidating.
It is. You're staring into a void where there are no clear day-to-day deadlines. Like that your advisor might vaguely suggest, oh, have a chapter done by the end of the semester.
But there's literally no one checking your daily progress on a Tuesday afternoon.
Right. And when we look at this through the lens of human psychology, it becomes pretty obvious why so many high achievers end up drowning in this dynamic.
Because of how our brains are wired, right?
Exactly. The human brain is evolutionarily wired to prioritize immediate threats over long-term abstract goals.
Oh, wow. So your brain literally sees a grading deadline as a threat.
Yeah, your amygdala perceives that Tuesday morning grading deadline as an immediate threat to your social standing and your employment. So the structured tasks completely hijack your attention.
And the unstructured thesis research, which is literally the very thing you came to the program to accomplish, that inevitably gets pushed to the back burner.
Yeah, which then creates this massive compounding cycle of guilt.
Oh, the guilt is so real. You spend all day grading papers and answering emails, which are technically productive tasks, right?
Technically, yeah.
But because you didn't touch your research, you feel like you accomplished absolutely nothing.
Right, and then you find yourself working until 2 in the morning, sacrificing sleep, abandoning your relationships, just to scrape together a few hours for your thesis.
Add the fact that the people in these programs are typically, goal-oriented perfectionists.
Oh, absolutely.
And you have this immense internal pressure to find the absolute best solution to an unstructured problem.
It just creates a state of chronic stress.
Right.
But the really insidious part of this paradox isn't just the work itself.
What is it then?
It's the environment in which you're expected to do it. Dr. Giri refers to this as the invisible systemic pressures.
Okay, let me pause and push back on that idea for a second. Or rather, let me ask the question that you, listening to this right now, might be wrestling with.
Sure, go for it.
If literally everyone in your academic program is facing this exact same paradox, the same clash between grading and research. Why does it always feel like a deeply personal failure when you are the one who is overwhelmed?
That is such a common feeling.
Right. Why does it look like the rest of the cohort has it figured out and you are just, uniquely flawed?
Well, the thing is, that illusion is actually a feature of the system, not a bug.
Wait, really? A feature of the system?
Yeah. It feels like a personal failure because the environment is specifically designed to keep you silent about the struggle. We really have to look at the lab and group culture here.
The toxic productivity stuff.
Exactly. In many high-level academic departments, there's this pervasive toxic culture of overwork where exhaustion is literally treated as a metric of dedication.
Like it's a badge of honor to be sleep deprived.
Right. If you look around and see your peers pulling 14-hour days or humble bragging about sleeping under their desks, it establishes this unspoken baseline.
So discussing your need for rest is basically stigmatized as a lack of intellectual rigor.
Yes. And the pressure goes way beyond just peer competition.
Yeah, because in a standard corporate job, if your manager is demanding 80-hour weeks, you can eventually transfer departments, right?
Yeah.
Or just update your resume and leave the company entirely.
Exactly. But in academia, your advisor is essentially the sole gatekeeper to your entire future career.
They control your funding, your letters of recommendation, your graduation timeline, everything.
And that power dynamic is terrifying. Because an advisor holds such immense control over your progression, students become deeply afraid of setting any professional boundaries at all.
They fear that saying no to, like, an extra side project or bringing up their deteriorating mental health might jeopardize this professional relationship they literally rely on for survival.
Exactly. And then you layer on top of that the financial reality of living on a tiny graduate stipend.
Oh, yeah. The stress of managing a household, the isolation of being far from family.
When you look at all of that, the mental health crisis in these programs makes complete biological and psychological sense.
So understanding the systemic reality is actually the first tactical step here.
Yes, exactly.
Because when you map out the toxic lab culture, the medieval power dynamics of the advisor system, and the financial strain, you realize that your exhaustion is not a lack of personal resilience.
No, it's a completely predictable response to a systemic flaw.
And by shifting the blame from your own supposed inadequacy to the structural reality of the program, you empower yourself.
Right, because the system is never going to spontaneously offer you a balanced life.
You have to actively build your own armor.
Which brings us to how you actually operate within a structurally flawed environment.
Okay, yeah. Let's get into the tactics.
If you can't change the overarching system, you have to control your immediate behavior within it. And the most fundamental mindset shift Dr. Giri advocates for is treating your graduate studies strictly like a professional job.
Strictly like a job. Okay.
Yeah. It cannot be a 2-4-6 and all-consuming identity. You must establish clear, non-negotiable start and end times for your workday.
Okay, let me put myself in the shoes of a first-year Ph.D. student hearing this right now.
Okay.
Treating this like a standard job sounds lovely in theory. But if I strictly pack my bag and clock out at 5 p.m. while the rest of my lab is ordering takeout for an all-nighter to impress our advisor, aren't I just going to fall behind?
That is the fear. Absolutely.
Like, in a purely competitive sense, won't I lose the race?
It's an incredibly common fear, but it completely conflates busyness with actual productivity. The source material draws a critical distinction here.
How so?
Well, think about the reality of a 14-hour workday that's driven by guilt. How much of that time is spent engaged in deep, cognitively demanding work?
Probably not much.
Right. And how much is spent staring blankly at a screen or scrolling through literature without comprehending a single paragraph, or just being paralyzed by perfectionism?
Oh, I've been there. The blank stare.
We all have. There's this concept called Parkinson's law, which states that work expands to fill the time allotted for its completion.
Okay, so if you give yourself all day, it'll take all day.
Exactly. By enforcing artificial scarcity, giving yourself only 8 hours to work, you force your brain to prioritize high-impact output.
So when the clock stops, you completely disconnect.
Completely. You do not check lab emails at 9 p.m. You recover your cognitive resources so that the next day your structured hours are actually potent.
You are basically trading shallow, performative exhaustion for focused efficiency.
That's a great way to put it.
If I only have until 5 p.m., I really can't afford to waste 3 hours worrying about where to start my thesis.
Exactly. But that blank page is still terrifying, right?
It's the worst.
Which leads directly into the second major tactic from the source, which is microtasking.
Microtasking. This directly addresses the paralysis of that unstructured research we discussed earlier, doesn't it?
It does, because when you look at a massive multi-year milestone on a to-do list, like write a literature review, your brain basically shorts out.
It's just too big.
Way too big. The goal is too vague, the activation energy required to even start is too high, and so you procrastinate by doing something structured, like answering emails.
So the strategy is to break these massive projects down into small, highly specific tasks that take a maximum of 1 to 2 hours to complete.
Right. Instead of writing work on thesis on a sticky note, your task becomes read and summarize 2 specific papers on protein folding.
Or write the methodology paragraph for experiment 3.
Exactly.
What fascinates me here is the underlying neurochemistry of this tactic.
Oh yeah, the dopamine aspect.
Right. Because by shrinking the task to a 1 to 2 hour window, you're actively manipulating your brain's reward system.
Yes. Every single time you cross off summarize 2 papers, you get a tangible hit of dopamine.
And that dopamine lowers the activation energy needed for the next task.
Exactly. You are manufacturing a sense of completion in an environment that otherwise denies you any closure at all.
You're basically building a ladder out of the void.
I love that analogy. And to maintain that momentum, you have to ruthlessly protect the time required to climb that ladder.
The boundaries again.
Yes.
Yeah.
The source emphasizes using digital tools like Google Calendar, Trello, or Asana. But the insight here is not just about logging your lab meeting.
Right. You have to schedule your personal life with the exact same level of priority.
Yes. This is where high achievers really stumble.
Because they prioritize the work over everything else. You really have to put your gym sessions, your grocery shopping, your dinner with a friend right onto the calendar.
And you have to treat a 6 p.m. dinner block as if it were a mandatory meeting with the dean of your college.
If it is blocked out, you cannot let academic guilt bleed into it.
But, putting a block on a calendar is the easy part. Defending that block is the real challenge.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
You really have to master the art of the no.
Yes. And in an environment where your advisor holds the keys to your career, a flat refusal feels like professional suicide.
It really does. But the source provides specific diplomatic scripts to protect your time without sounding ungrateful or insubordinate, right?
It does.
But in the moment, when the person who controls your funding asks you to take on an extra paper, the fight-or-flight response kicks in.
Of course it does.
The instinct is to people-please and say, yes, absolutely, I can do that, and then you just resent yourself for the next 3 weeks. So how do you actually deploy a boundary when the pressure is really on?
The primary rule here is to never answer an unexpected request immediately.
Never immediately. Okay.
You need a script that buys you time and disables that people-pleasing reflex. When you're asked to take on a new project, the response should be, "Thank you so much for the invitation. Let me look at my schedule and get back to you by tomorrow."
Oh, that's good. That simple delay is incredibly powerful.
It really is. It acknowledges the request respectfully, but it gives your prefrontal cortex time to catch up and actually evaluate if this new project aligns with your micro goals.
Or if it will just completely derail your graduation timeline.
Exactly.
And what about the day-to-day interruptions? Like the peer who runs up to your desk in a panic and needs you to troubleshoot their code right this second?
Right, the fire drills. For immediate interpersonal interruptions, you set a boundary that offers collaboration, but strictly on your own terms.
What's the script for that?
The script is, "I would be happy to help you with this. However, I'm currently on a tight deadline. Can we schedule 15 minutes to go over this together tomorrow at 10 a.m.?
Oh, I like that. This shifts you from being a victim of other people's poorly planned emergencies into a state of structured collaboration.
Exactly. You remain a team player, but your 1 to 2 hour micro tasks remain fully protected.
But, even if you perfectly schedule your microtasks and you masterfully fend off every interruption, it is all completely useless if the physical brain executing those tasks is starved of resources.
Oh, absolutely. You cannot color code your way out of biological exhaustion.
Right, which transitions us from managing the external chaos to maintaining the internal hardware.
The Wellness Foundation.
Yeah, in academia, self-care is so frequently treated as a luxury. It's framed as like a bubble bath you get to have once a semester after a major presentation.
Right, which is just absurd. The source material makes it extremely clear that scientifically, taking care of yourself is a non-negotiable biological necessity for cognitive function.
It is the literal foundation of your ability to produce high-level work. So let's look at physical health first. The source highlights Dr. John Rady, a psychiatrist at Harvard Medical School. And he states that exercise is the single most powerful tool you have to optimize your brain function.
And we should clarify, this has absolutely nothing to do with aesthetics or weight loss.
Nothing at all.
When you engage in aerobic exercise, your body releases a protein called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF.
BDNF.
Yeah.
And this protein essentially acts like fertilizer for the brain, right?
Exactly like fertilizer. It encourages the growth of new neurons and strengthens the synapses connecting them.
So even just 30 minutes of brisk walking or cycling clears the cognitive fog and literally builds a more resilient brain.
Yeah, you're physically upgrading your hardware.
That's incredible. And then there's the architecture of sleep.
Oh, sleep is huge.
Because the pervasive hustle culture mentality tries to convince you that sleep is passive downtime, like it's a period where you are actively failing to produce.
Which is so scientifically backwards. Dictionary redefines sleep as a highly active period. When you sleep, your brain is engaging in memory consolidation. It takes the fragmented data you absorb during the day, processes it in the hippocampus, and then moves it to long-term storage in the neocortex.
And it also actively prunes away unnecessary neural connections.
Exactly. So if your entire job is complex learning and research, and you cut your sleep down to 4 hours to read more papers, you are preventing the very biological process required to remember what you just read.
You're actively sabotaging your own objective.
Literally. But beyond the physiological baseline of sleep and exercise, there is a really fascinating concept here from a neuroscience Ph.D. candidate named Charlotte Fraser.
Oh, yes, I wanted to talk about this.
She argues that to survive a high-pressure intellectual environment, you must cultivate what she calls fundamentally unproductive hobbies.
Fundamentally unproductive hobbies. I love that phrasing. Because in a culture that demands you optimize every single minute for output, where every podcast has to make you smarter, every hobby needs to be monetized into a side hustle,
Yeah,
she's arguing for an escape hatch.
exactly. You need an activity with zero pressure to excel.
Zero pressure.
A pursuit that is entirely divorced from your professional identity and your need for achievement.
So it could be like watercolor painting, where you fully accept the art is going to be terrible.
Yes. Or it could be gardening, reading low-stakes fiction, or just playing a casual video game. The critical element is that there is no metric for success.
You're doing it purely for the joy of the activity itself.
Right.
Think of a high-achieving brain like a smartphone. When you are in the lab, analyzing complex data sets, navigating the delicate social dynamics of your advisor, and silently worrying about your stipend, you basically have 50 heavy, battery-draining apps running in the background all at once.
Yeah, and the phone is getting hot to the touch.
Exactly. So engaging in a fundamentally unproductive hobby isn't a waste of time. It is the hard reboot.
That's a perfect way to look at it.
It is the process required to clear the RAM so the phone doesn't literally catch fire in your hands.
And we can actually map that hard reboot in the brain.
Really? How so?
Well, when you stop focusing intensely on a structured task and engage in something low stakes and unproductive, you activate what neurologists call the default mode network.
The default mode network.
Yes, this is your brain's background processor. It only turns on when your active focus power is down.
Okay, so what does it do?
The default mode network is responsible for connecting disparate ideas, reflecting on the past, and generating creative insights.
Oh, so this is the exact reason you often have your biggest aha moments while, like, taking a shower or walking the dog.
Exactly. You cannot solve complex research problems if your default mode network is completely burnt out from constant high-alert stress.
Okay, so we've rebooted the biological machine.
Yes.
But there's one more psychological ghost we have to confront here, and that is imposter syndrome.
Oh, the classic.
Right.
Uh-huh.
How do you cope with the constant nagging insecurity that comes from exploring the unknown, especially when your experiments fail or a paper gets rejected?
Well, Dr. Giri notes that nearly every researcher, from the first-year student all the way up to the tenured department head, battles with this insecurity.
It never really goes away.
No, because the brain has a natural negativity bias. It is wired to remember the one harsh criticism while completely forgetting the 10 compliments you received.
So what's the tactical solution for that?
The solution provided here is creating a good file.
A good file.
Yeah. This is a dedicated folder. It can be a physical folder in your desk drawer or just a digital one on your desktop where you actively collect and save positive feedback.
Oh, I see. So you save the kind email from your advisor or a note from an undergraduate student you mentored.
Exactly. Or even just the acceptance letter to your program. You aggressively document your small academic successes.
Because when you inevitably hit a roadblock or you receive a brutal peer review on a submission, it is dangerously easy to let that single negative event define your entire worth.
Completely. And the good file serves as objective, tangible evidence of your capabilities.
It basically counteracts the irrational, loud voice of self-doubt with quiet, documented proof.
Yes. You open it up and you remind yourself of how far you have actually come.
It anchors you back to reality.
It really does. And, when we weave all of these tactical and psychological threads together, the structural paradox of grad school, the invisible systemic pressures, microtasking, scheduling your personal life, and maintaining the biological hardware,
Yeah.
the overarching takeaway is a shift in how we view balance itself.
Because work-life balance is not a static destination.
No, not at all.
It is not a magical mountain peak that you hike to, pitch a tent, and then inhabit effortlessly for the rest of your career. You don't just achieve balance on a Tuesday and remain balanced forever.
Right. It requires continuous, active calibration.
It's oscillation.
Exactly. There will absolutely be weeks where a major grant deadline or a thesis defense means your work will temporarily consume your life. That is just the reality of the field.
But recognizing that means there must also be weeks where you ruthlessly pull back, deploy those scripts to say no, and prioritize your personal life to recharge.
It is a constant oscillation.
Which means you really have to protect your boundaries, not just so you can have a nice weekend, but because it is biologically and psychologically required to actually finish the degree you started.
Yes.
You have to be gentle with yourself. You have to celebrate the small wins, document them in your good file, and never apologize for having a rich, fulfilling life outside the walls of the laboratory or the library.
Because the person conducting the research is infinitely more valuable than the research itself.
That's incredibly well said.
If the person breaks, the work stops anyway.
So true. Well, before we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to mull over on your own.
Oh, okay.
We spent a lot of time discussing the fact that thesis research is fundamentally an exploration of the unknown.
We did.
And we spent the rest of our time building a tactical fortress around it. Rigid, 1 to 2 hour productivity blocks, perfectly managed calendars, and microtasking.
Right.
But if true research really does require stepping into the great unknown, is there a hidden risk in all this optimization?
Oh, that's an interesting point.
Could an over-obsession with rigid productivity hacks and perfectly micromanaged schedules actually suffocate the chaotic serendipity that is often required for a massive breakthrough discovery?
Wow. Is there a point where too much structure becomes the enemy of true innovation?
Exactly. It's a profound tension to navigate. How much chaos is necessary for genius to actually spark?
That is definitely something to think about.
Something to mull over the next time you are staring at a perfectly color-coded calendar. Just remember, this whole journey is a marathon, not a sprint. The system won't pace you, so you have to pace yourself.
Yeah.
Take a breath, enforce your boundaries, and don't forget to pack some water.
And maybe paint a truly terrible watercolor this weekend.
Definitely. Until next time, keep exploring.